Thanks for listening to this episode of Screen Facts with Jason Davis, your movie trivia and discussion podcast. Please like the Facebook page, facebook.com/screenfacts, and post your comments or questions. You can also tweet Jason at @JasonDavisVoice, email him at screenfacts@yahoo.com. Please subscribe for free in the iTunes store to automatically get new episodes every Wednesday.
The Blazer, everybody. Brian Blaze Berkowitz in the house once again for the Screen Facts podcast. Welcome, my friend. Great to see you as always.
Great to be here. I got put to work as soon as I came in. That's fantastic.
People are probably tired of hearing me say that. I'm thinking.
All right, well, this could be the first or a tester, or maybe where you see, hey, the Blazer, not bad. Maybe I have a new career.
You never know. You never know.
I just can't stop laughing long enough to say it.
It's pretty funny. So you and I are going to discuss a movie. You know, talk about going off the beaten path, man. We don't really like to throw too many curveballs on this show, right?
This is pretty curvy.
This is really curvy.
If this were a chick, she'd be Babraham Lincoln. She's so curvy.
No, we're not going to talk about Wayne's World. We are going to talk about a very obscure 1980s movie from December 14th, 1984, Runaway, starring Tom Selleck, Gene Simmons, and Cynthia Rhodes. I remember very distinctly seeing this movie in the theater.
Me too.
Obviously, we both saw it in the theater because we're huge KISS fans.
Can I tell a quick story about
Of
going to see it?
course.
Do I just jump right in?
Jump right in.
It's always about me.
It's about everybody listening.
You know, when I talked about Beverly Hills Cop, I talked about that it reminded me of my late friend Virgil.
Right.
Well, I went to see this with my buddy Virgil in the movie theater in Nanuet, New York. And I remember going in there, him saying to me, don't go crazy when Gene Simmons comes on the screen. I think he was afraid I was going to embarrass him, right? So I said, okay, I won't do it. And the first time you see him, my buddy's like, Gene! Ah! And I always remembered that moment. Like, I don't know if it was intentional or if he was overwhelmed or he was like, I'm going to yell, Gene, you're not going to.
The first time he appears on screen, yeah, you just can't help but get excited as a fan.
Put your mindset back in 1984 when we're going to discuss this, because right now, if you decided for the next 6 weeks of your life, you're going to watch nothing but KISS on YouTube and learn about KISS and read about KISS, you have that ability now.
Right.
In 1984, I once heard, I forgot who it was, and Howard Stern say, how the magic is gone. Like, you'd go to a concert and, oh my God, you'd actually hear the lead singer speaking.
Yes.
You'd hear him talk. Well, in 1984, I could not get enough KISS.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, or
I was the same way.
Or in 2016.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right. But the point is, the spotlight being pointed on Gene Simmons was amazing. Because look, I'm a huge KISS fan. Surprise! I know you like him a little bit also, right?
Just a little bit.
Right. The thing is that, maybe for the songs, I'm more of a Paul guy.
Right,
but,
me too.
But what dragged me into
No
KISS...
offense, Gene.
Yeah, no, none whatsoever. What pulled me into KISS was Gene.
Listen, he's always been the sort of image of the band. When you talk about KISS, you think Gene Simmons because of the tongue, the blood, the fire, everything.
The most distinct portion of the band is Gene Simmons, clearly.
Absolutely.
And the over-the-top nature. I mean, again, him and Paul collaborated on this, Nace and Peter too, but I have to say that it really is almost like Gene's thoughts being put into action when you see KISS.
I almost want to disagree a little
Except
bit, too.
for this period in KISS where Paul did everything.
Yeah, exactly. I think Paul was always fine with Gene being the main visual point of the band.
Right.
But make no mistake about it, from the beginning to now, Paul is the heart and soul of that band.
100%. I guess you're right then. I will step back from that statement.
Gene kind of perpetuates that. God love him. I mean,
Are our 14 and 16-year-old selves taking over right now if this has all become about KISS?
Oh, I'm going to make sure that we don't make the whole podcast about KISS. But, listen, you can't talk about a Gene Simmons movie without talking about KISS.
We should have been like, all right, Screen Facts. You wanted the best. You got the best. The hottest movie on film, Runaway. Yeah, maybe not.
The funny thing, we're talking about KISS, but this movie has nothing to do with KISS.
It's like the anti-KISS.
Well, the great thing about it is that this was the first time we really saw Gene act, unless you count Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, and I don't really think you can.
I would sit and talk about that movie for 2 hours also.
Well, yeah. That could happen. I would totally do that.
I might do that also.
I'm sure there's KISS fans that would totally appreciate that.
Note to self, Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
This movie, Runaway, written and directed by Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton had written or directed some other movies, including Twister, Westworld, and Coma. In fact, Tom Selleck worked with Crichton on Coma as well. He's probably best known, however, for writing a little book called Jurassic Park. Remember that?
Little book,
yeah. And by the way, there is a Screen Facts podcast for the movie of Jurassic Park, so check that out.
I remember well. But did we also talk about, I think we're about to discuss ER.
Yeah, I totally forgot. He created ER as well.
What did he do, like 250 episodes of that?
331 over 15 years.
That's more than 330.
That's right.
That's a
one
lot.
more. That's amazing, though. Not too many shows last that long, especially that kind of a show.
That's incredible. Michael Crichton has got a great brain, a great mind for these things. Love Jurassic Park.
Phenomenal.
Crichton's famous for his research and his accuracy with regard to
Yes.
DNA and things like that. I almost feel like this movie kind of stood alone from Michael Crichton's work, from his novels, etc., because it's a weird movie. To me, it's, first of all, chronically 80s. I don't mean chronically 80s like what we talk about, like Better Off Dead, things like that.
Right.
Maybe I'm saying a little cheesy. I thought some of the acting, there were a couple moments, I shouldn't say this, like with Cynthia,
Cynthia Rhodes, yeah. Let's just jump right in and talk about Gene first, because, let's face it, the reason we're even discussing this movie at all is because it contains Gene Simmons.
100%.
So, the first major motion picture for a Hollywood studio for Gene. In his book, Sex, Money, Kiss, he said that Michael Crichton's casting was based primarily on an audition where Crichton asked him to stare at him for about a minute without making any facial expressions. And Crichton thought that Gene looked so menacing that he decided to cast him as Charles Luther.
I will say that there were times in the movie where I couldn't stop looking at him. I mean,
Yeah.
the level of evil, whatever they had in mind for Charles Luther,
Yeah.
he portrayed. I think that from the way he stared, from the way he spoke, everything about it, it seems like he nailed it.
There's actually a story that an assistant director said that one of the off-duty Vancouver police doing crowd control had pointed at Gene and said, "Hey, you better get him out of there." After the assistant director said he was one of the actors, the cop said, "I don't know. If I shook hands with him, I'd count all my fingers." He really is a presence in this movie. And you could say whatever you want about if he can act or not. I was convinced.
Me too.
And I remember seeing it in the theater thinking, I'm proud of this guy for coming in here and doing this.
He pulled it off. I always got I don't know if I had read it or got the feeling. I don't know why. I always thought he was a Middle Eastern character.
When he was in Wanted Dead or Alive with Rutger Hauer a few years later, he played a Middle Eastern terrorist. As far as Gene Simmons movies go, Runaway by far is the best one. It's the best written, the best executed.
It's the holy grail of Gene Simmons movies.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to...
Next to Kiss and Scooby-Doo.
That's pretty good, actually.
Have we discussed that a lot, right? That was a good movie.
You and I talked about it, yeah. And the funny thing is, you have young kids, so you have an excuse for watching it. I don't. I loved it. I thought it was really
They
cool.
probably sold more copies to adults than they did to
sure.
children.
Yeah, the fans buy stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, we mentioned Wanted Dead or Alive. That, out of all the Gene Simmons movies, arguably has the best death scene of his. I don't think I'm going to ruin it for you by telling this. He gets killed in the end.
In Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah, in Wanted Dead or Alive. Because
and Runaway.
Well, yeah. The death scene in this is pretty cool, too. But in Wanted Dead or Alive, Rutger Hauer puts a grenade in his mouth.
Okay.
Pulls the pin and walks away.
Happens.
And you see his head blow up. It's pretty cool.
All right.
But in this, he gets killed by his own creations, his little spiders.
Can we talk about that for a second? I guess we're fast forwarding it, but again, This movie is in '84. If you haven't seen it, tough, right? I noticed that when he was dying for the first time, because remember, he, at the end, he comes up,
Yeah.
He was doing the Gene Simmons roll your eyes back.
Yes,
did you notice that
I
also?
did notice it as well.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
The screaming, I'm telling you, he was a great actor in this movie.
I thought he was good.
Did he not stop acting because it was getting in the way of Kiss?
Oh, it totally
He had to make a choice, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he turned down a lot of roles from what I was reading.
Right,
so.
and my thoughts are on this. Nobody's going to be great. If you watched Marlon Brando's first role, I'm sure it wasn't as good as his last role.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying he would have been the next inside the actor's studio, but he was pretty good.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if after Kiss either stops doing their thing or Gene and Paul leave Kiss and turn it over to other guys. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gene Simmons get his acting career going.
Yeah, I could see it too. Maybe
he's done things over the last decade or so.
Well, I just told you I saw an
Bits and
episode of CSI with him on it.
Yeah, he was in some movies too.
Let's focus on the sci-fi aspect of this.
Okay.
I've never seen Tom Selleck in a bad role. I like Tom Selleck a lot. He was great. Cynthia Rhodes, I didn't think her acting was all that outstanding. At times, I thought she had porno movie dialogue. But let's talk about her for a second. How about the policewoman wearing a skirt? Did you notice that?
This was actually her first starring movie role.
Right. And she didn't have a ton more after it either. I looked her up.
The reason that you didn't really hear from her a lot after this was because after she did this, she did Dirty Dancing, and then she got married to Richard Marx and decided to become a full-time mom and gave up her career at that point. So
okay, I liked her in this. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I thought she was perfect in it, but I thought a couple things. One, the level of the relationship in hours, like fast forward to 10 years, they were so close. 2, talked about with her wearing the skirt.
Right.
Kirstie Alley smoking. That's something you don't see a lot in the movies anymore.
Oh, yeah, there's totally a lot of things.
And Tom Selleck going, she's good looking about Kirstie Alley. Like,
yeah.
And getting all like, woo.
Yeah, getting all googly eyed.
Yeah, googly eyed was what I'm thinking. But it's funny. It had nothing to do with the movie or the acting, but it's really funny sitting back and watching. Like, you'll see a movie from, backwards from a certain time point where you see a newsroom, everybody's smoking.
Right.
And you just don't see it anymore. It's incredible.
I commented on that too when we were watching. I'm like, look, there she's smoking in the office.
And it was weird, right?
Very weird.
But
back then it was perfectly normal for that to happen. And the same thing with a policewoman wearing a skirt was probably the uniform back then. Who knows?
Right. But again, it was strange because if you think about it, is that really the smartest uniform for a woman to be wearing when you have to chase criminals and stuff like that?
Probably not. And wasn't she wearing heels at one point? She was wearing heels later on where she comes to the kids' rescue.
Yes.
When she's in a regular dress.
Right, because she had to get dressed up for that, right?
Well, I think she was supposed to go out to dinner or something with him.
Right. Lois the robot. Mm-hmm. And an interesting thing, the chief, now you're going to say Police Academy, but I'm going to say that he was from MASH.
You're talking about G.W. Bailey.
Yeah.
The cool thing about the Police Academy connection is that in both that movie and this, both released in 1984, by the way, he's working with a police officer named Karen Thompson.
Interesting.
So in this movie, of course, it's Cynthia Rhodes, and then in Police Academy, it's Kim Cattrall's character. Kirstie Alley, I think, in this movie is probably the most over the top of all the actors involved.
I almost feel like you could have made the movie without her also.
I mean, there's some cool stuff with her and Gene, though, the movie would miss if you didn't have her in there.
Did Gene get second billing in this?
Third. It was Tom Selleck, Cynthia Rhodes, then Gene.
But it was pretty, I have to say, when I watched this the other night, when his name came on, I was like, it was cool, right?
Going back to what you were saying before of putting our minds in, teenage mode. This movie comes out in 1984. I'm 14, 15 years old, whatever. Being a huge KISS fan, to see Gene Simmons on the big screen.
It was like we won. It was a victory to see him on the screen.
It was just very cool, And I remember when they first started making the movie, and I think People magazine had pictures of behind the scenes of him in character.
He had to cut his hair, don't forget, also.
Yeah. It was just really cool to see him as this character going, oh my God, we're going to get to see Gene Simmons star in a movie.
Gene, in this movie, everything about him was like, I don't know who could have played this role better.
Oh, I agree. He totally crushed it. Kirstie Alley said that she was even a little intimidated by him. She said that she wasn't really a big fan of KISS and thought Gene was kind of bizarre, with the tongue and the fire eating and all that. And she kind of kept thinking of that when she was doing the first scenes with him in the movie. She said to walk towards him, there was a lot going on inside of her. He's kind of this really powerful guy and seems very dangerous, but he's really not.
They only had like 3 minutes together in the whole movie. The two of them, right?
But there were really good scenes.
Yeah, well, there was some cool stuff right before he whacks her in the restaurant.
Yeah, the sushi restaurant. That seemed like a pretty cool restaurant.
And it's thinking back to sushi back then. Now you take 2 steps, you can get sushi. 84,
anywhere.
There was I think in Rockland there was 1 sushi restaurant.
Yeah, sushi was very trendy in the 80s.
But it was very cool. But I thought that there was the way you're describing this. There was backstory between them, and you could see it.
And plus, when they did the debug thing on her, she had the whip marks or whatever on her back.
Right.
So there's definitely some weird shit going on in their relationship.
So what other screen facts have you for me in this movie?
So Tom Selleck's character, his name, Ramsey, is said approximately 52 times in the movie, which is a little more than once every 2 minutes.
They did say his name a lot. I still feel like this was, in the best way I'm saying this, a cheesy 80s sci-fi movie.
It is. But
in the best way. But
it's fun, though.
Fun, cheesy 80s sci-fi movie, good. Mm-hmm. Cheesy 80s sci-fi movie plus Gene Simmons, great.
Yes, I agree.
Great.
I concur. The reason I know that this is a good movie is because Tommy, who's going to be 15 next month, actually enjoyed the movie, and he wanted to watch it again. He was excited to watch it again. He thought it was a lot of fun, and since he's about the age that I was when I first saw it, I think it holds up really well.
Well, I have to say, I think I told you before, in addition to being a frequent guest on the podcast, I'm a fan first and foremost.
I appreciate
that.
And
the way I like to judge the podcast is, do I want to watch the movie again after I hear it? Mm-hmm. And now from watching it and talking about it, I would like to watch it again.
Yeah.
And that's a plus. This is interesting. For those watching this and saying, all right, I'm not a KISS fan. These guys are talking about KISS. It's ridiculous. I can't believe women actually marry these guys. It's not a bad movie to sit down and watch. Like, it's one of these things, like, you catch it on cable, take 5 minutes and watch it.
It's really not bad. It's really not. And we have geeked out a little bit on KISS. I'm not going to lie.
We needed a KISS-filled episode where we didn't have to say we didn't
have to make an excuse to talk about
Yes, correct.
KISS.
So, I think we're doing well with this one, and I think that we've earned it, and I think you've earned it.
The more obvious choice to talk about on this podcast would be Detroit Rock City, which I think is going to happen at some point, right?
It's certainly going to happen.
It has to.
And I think we owe it to Kiss them.
Yes, absolutely. So Runaway was filmed almost entirely on location within a 30-mile radius of Vancouver in British Columbia in Canada. Crichton said that the Canadian crew was great to work with, and the entire film would have been shot in British Columbia, except that the delayed spring weather slowed the growth of the corn there. So the scene where they have to take down that runaway robot that's running through the cornfield, they had to shoot that in Washington State in Moses Lake. Crichton said that after having shot films in L.A., Ireland, and England, this particular movie was his best experience.
Do you think it was because of Canada, obviously?
Yeah, because Canada was so easy. And he said when a film comes into an area, they have to get all kinds of permits and permission to do things and all that. And he said that the government was so easy to work with.
They wanted the business, probably.
Yeah,
I'm sure. That's what it was.
It's good money.
I think that this movie helped me relive my youth a little bit. That was an interesting era for me, the post-Creatures of the Night era of KISS.
Mm-hmm.
Lick It Up was a big deal to me, waiting for Animalize to come out. The time between those two albums, I needed Gene Simmons.
They were really good, KISS was, about putting out an album pretty consistently every single year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, early on in their career, they were crazy. I mean, they were releasing a couple albums a year. Yeah. And then they were pretty good about every year putting out a new album and then a tour and everything.
I remember being so happy that I knew the manager of the record store in the mall because she would get like the trade magazines to tell you when stuff was coming out. And I remember her telling me when Crazy Nights was coming out. There was no way to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you'd catch a blurb in Circus Magazine or something,
Right.
I remember that well.
It's funny because, nowadays people probably just take for granted that they can look up anything on the internet. You can Google anything.
Anything.
Back then, I remember distinctly, anytime there was a special on KISS, it was so cool, especially if they showed stuff of the makeup era.
Fantastic.
We've talked about this, and you said that that's like a pleasure center in your head.
Seeing 70s KISS triggers the pleasure center in my brain. I don't know what it is, but it makes me happy.
Yeah.
I think I've told you the same thing with pandas also, right?
Yeah.
So,
it's an interesting two things. But
I apologize for nothing. In fact, if I ever was actually in KISS, I would have been the panda.
There you go.
See? That would have worked.
It's funny because I'm trying to imagine what would happen if we presented KISS and a panda to you at the same time. That could be deadly.
It could be deadly. I think we're having too much fun.
We are. We're having way too much fun.
Is it too much fun or just enough fun?
Just enough fun. The other cool thing about this movie was the score.
The score was interesting.
It was. It has a very sort of sterile feel to it. You get a lot of action movies, especially sci-fi, and they have these big orchestral kind of bombastic scores.
It was like 80s, a guy with a synthesizer, right?
Well, the guy who did the score for this, so it was the first purely electronic score for composer Jerry Goldsmith. Goldsmith had an amazing career. He worked in movies and TV for decades. He died in 2004. Some of the other movies that he scored include two of Crichton's other films, Coma and The Great Train Robbery, the original 3 Omen movies, Poltergeist, the first 3 Rambo movies, Inner Space, the 2 Gremlins movies, Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Rudy, Air Force One, and several of the Star Trek movies. So he worked on a lot of really cool things, very interesting variety of things.
Hell of a resume, huh?
Yeah, I mean, and that's only scratching the surface. I just tried to pull out some of the highlights. I mean, for years and years, this guy was a very successful composer, so definitely cool.
Very cool. It wasn't your standard score.
So the robots in this movie are sort of different than what you would expect to see robots be like in a futuristic set movie. Normally you think of like what you see in Star Wars, where they're almost like human. In this, they're machines, and they're flawed and clunky and awkward.
And there are no C-3PO.
Although C-3PO's cereal is present in the movie in the scene in Ramsey's kitchen, which is a cereal that was around for maybe a couple of years in the 80s. And
was that the new Crunchy Force in breakfast?
It was. So it's kind of just funny that that's in there in a movie about robots.
I'm sure that was intentional.
Oh, totally. I'm sure. All right, so should we just completely pander to Gene right now?
Yes.
Let's assume that curiosity is going to get the best of him, and he's going to listen to this podcast.
I believe he will.
Because, we're 2 big fans of his, and he wants to support his fans the way his fans support him, right?
Yeah, I think so, too. And listen, we've basically...
He's not a busy man or anything.
No. You got to figure he travels a lot. Maybe he has time to tweet and look at things on Twitter. Who knows?
Maybe.
But I think that would be great. I think if Gene Simmons listened to this, he'd hear that we're big fans, that he knocked it out of the park on this, and I would go see another movie if he made one. Would you?
Oh, absolutely.
No, seriously, there's a lot of people that love this movie, and I think that this could be a catalyst, people listening to it. I bet you we could get a hashtag going about this movie.
You think so?
And get it to trend.
Hey, you know what? At the very least, Gene's got to want to retweet something where like a couple of guys that are fans of his just kiss his ass about his acting for 20 minutes or whatever.
That is true. Well, Gene, if you're listening, thank you for listening. And if you've gotten this far into it, thank you so much. but hook us up.
Yes, please.
A little retweet.
A retweet. We don't want free tickets. We don't want backstage passes. We don't want free merchandise. Just a little retweet would be great.
That's it. And we'll continue spending our money on KISS, will we not?
Let's face it, we're going to do that anyway, Blazer.
We are, Gene, but help us out anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't think we could talk anymore about an obscure 80s Tom Selleck, Gene Simmons, Cynthia Rhodes movie. What do you think?
I think that we've reached the end of this trek.
I think so, too.
I wanted to make sure we did it, but I wanted to make sure we didn't run away with it.
Oh. Well, thank you for sticking around and listening to this and putting up with our KISS geekness. And if you have any comments or any scenes from the movie that we left out that are some of your favorites, let us know about them. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/screenfacts. And you can also tweet me at Jason Davis Voice or email screenfacts@yahoo.com. If you enjoyed the show, please help us out by rating and commenting on iTunes. You can also support the show by ordering Screen Facts merchandise on the podcast page of jasondavisvoice.com. Gene will appreciate me plugging my website and merchandise. Gene, I learned from the best. Show theme music by Audionautics.com. Thanks to WickedRadioNetwork.com and our announcer Kim from Kim'sVoice.com. Blazer, thanks so much for taking the ride in and doing another podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me here. And as always, I look forward to the next one.
Me too, always. And don't forget to check out Brian's webpage, berklaw.com. It's BERK law.com.
Screen Facts with Jason Davis is a production of Jason Davis VoiceOver. Visit jasondavisvoice.com if you need a voice for a commercial, narration, promo, internet video, e-learning or training program, and more. Click on the podcast page to get information about where you can download and listen to past episodes. Listen again next Wednesday for a new episode of Screen Facts with Jason Davis.